Good morning. March 29, Hindu editorial. Power in space on Mission Shakti. Mission Shakti might have had one message for India and another for the world. India has entered an elite space club with the Defense Research and Development Organization, blowing up a satellite in a low Earth orbit into smithereens. Such Indian capability to take out moving objects has never really been in doubt. The DRDO announced it as early as in 2011. Indeed, India has been in the business of testing long-range missiles for years, although public attention on the space program has been mostly on its civilian and scientific aspects. The military dimension, though always latent, had not seen a verifiable demonstration as in the case of Mission Shakti, the anti-satellite ASAT missile test. The display of technological prowess through the test accentuates the military dimension and brings into play an overwhelming assurance of what the Ministry of External Affairs describes as a credible deterrence against attacks on India's growing number of space assets. Although only 3 other countries, the US, Russia and China, have previously demonstrated this capability, it is possible to surmise that countries with long-range missiles could do the same with equal effectiveness. But India surely is taking a forward claim as a space weapons power. While the country celebrates the test as a scientific achievement, it must also dwell on the possibility that this might goad its none too friendly neighbor Pakistan into a competitive frenzy. Also, in the absence of a credible threat to India's space assets from China or any other country with anti-satellite missile capabilities, whether the deterrence sought to be achieved by this test would lead to a more stable strategic security environment is not certain. There are other questions too. Will the test spur space weaponization? Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while announcing the success of the test, was clear that India wanted to maintain peace rather than indulge in warmongering, and by targeting a low orbit satellite, the missile test did the utmost possible to minimize space debris, which is an issue of international concern. But within India, the timing of the test, when the country is already in election mode, does raise concerns whether this was aimed at the domestic constituency. The election mission is now seized of the question whether the Prime Minister must have violated the model code of conduct. If it does find the timing amiss, the Modi government could be in for some serious embarrassment. Ideally, the test should not have been a matter for a partisan political debate, but given the hyper-nationalist political plank of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Mission Shakti might have been more reverberations on the ground than it has had in space. March 29, Hindu editorial 2. Dangerous precedent on US endorsing Israel's Golan sovereignty. The US recognition of Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights is in bad faith. US President Donald Trump's decision to recognize Israel's sovereignty over the occupied Golan Heights hardly came as a surprise given his administration's blatant pro-Israel stance. It may sound ironic that a president who promised to facilitate a deal between Israelis and Palestinians has turned out to be the most pro-Israel president in the US history. Mr. Trump has already recognized as Israel's capital Jerusalem, a city it captured in parts in the 1948 and 1967 wars, and which is claimed by both Israelis and Palestinians. Before he announced his intention to recognize Israeli sovereignty over Golan, a State Department report had dropped the word occupied in references to Golan Heights and the Palestinian terrorists of Gaza and the West Bank, hinting at where the administration stood on the issue. Israel captured Golan, a strategically important plateau beside the Sea Galilee, from Syria in the 1967 war. Among the territories it captured in the war, Israel has returned only the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt. It annexed East Jerusalem and Golan Heights and continues to occupy the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. In 1981, as it passed the Golan annexation legislation, the Security Council passed a resolution that said the Israeli decision to impose its last jurisdiction and administration in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights is null and void and without international legal effect. Unlike Egypt in the 1970s, Syria has had neither the military ability nor the international clout to launch a campaign to get its territory back. President Bashar al-Assad tried to kickstart a US mediated peace process with Israel during the Obama presidency, but it failed to take off. And now the Syrian government, after fighting 8 years of a civil war, is debilitated and isolated, and the US move is unlikely to trigger any strong response, even from the Arab world. But that is the least of the problems. Mr. Trump's decisions flouts international norms and consensus and sets a dangerous precedent for nations involved in conflicts. The modern international system is built on sovereignty, and every nation state is supposed to be an equal player before international laws, irrespective of its military or economic might. The US, by recognizing the sovereignty of Israel over a piece of land that the latter captured from Syria 52 years ago, is challenging this and normalizing occupation. The decision also overlooks the wishes of the inhabitants of the territory. Most of the Druze population that has been living in Golan for generations has resisted Israel's offer of citizenship and remained loyal to Syria. This they did even amidst Israel's settlement activities. This is a conflict that needs to be settled between Israel and Syria at some point of time under international mediation. Mr. Trump is making the possibility of any future peaceful settlement difficult by recognizing Israel's sovereignty, just as he made any future Israeli-Palestinian settlement complicated with his decision to move the US Embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. Hindu editorial complete.